Well, welcome back to another episode of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. And we've hit two milestones. I am now 72 years old, and the original Whole Bag of Crazy is out of print, officially out of print. I may reissue it down the road and clean it up a little bit as things were, shall we say, omitted the first go around. But I got to wait on that because, like I said, there's other things going on. As far as Bootz is concerned, I got everything on hold. I'm going a homeopathic route right now until I hear back from the vet because I had to sit around and do my finances, which basically are nobody's business, but I'll be fucking honest with you. I get $856 a month from Social Security. Her shot for the Librela for the arthritis is $106. Blanca's allergy medication and other shit is about $3 a pill twice a day, so that's another $150 a month. So I'm $250 a month out already, and I can't go out anymore. And I already, like I said, I emailed the vet and told him what's going on, and it's not like that I don't want to take care of my dogs. I can't afford certain things, and the pill that they want to give her, she has to take on an empty stomach. I could bury a pill in fucking sirloin steak and she still will not take it. So that's going to be another issue. And like I said, I can't deal with this shit right now. I mean, she's okay for the moment, but I got to make some fucking arrangements or figure some shit out. The other thing is, for the month of October, we got Halloween coming up, and I've doing this for a while, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm really having a problem trying to figure out what I want to do for Halloween. Maybe go back into the real old school classic stuff that basically scared the shit out of us, maybe. I got to think on this and see what I'm going to do. Because, how many films have I covered? A shitload. And then two films that people had asked me to cover. One was Caligula and one was The Emperor of the North. Okay, as far as Caligula goes, you got to realize I was watching smut since I was 15 years old when I worked at projectors, stealing the stag films out of my father's drawer and watching them. So after a while, for lack of better words, watching fuck films is like watching paint dry to me. So that's where I was about when that came out. I did see it. I don't really have that many memories of it because I was shit-faced drunk. I remember there was something with a guy. I think a guy was banging a horse or something. I know there was violence. I know that there was a lot of mainstream actors in it who sort of got pissed off because it looks like they pulled like they do in the cannibal films. Well, the producers added those scenes after the fact. Okay, but really, who cared? To me it was just overpriced fuck film with a freak show motif, and that's what kept it at the Liberty for almost 3 months straight, and then kept bringing it back with no co-feature. They just kept running that. So, it was okay, but I'm not a huge fan of that shit. Fuck films are fuck films. When you get something plot driven or something like that, it's a little more interesting, and that's what I would go for. But this was a historical drama, interspersed with, fucking and sucking and violence. But again, my memory is lapsing on that one because I probably only saw it once. Sold a shitload of them on VHS and DVD, but only watched it once. As for Emperor of the North, well, it is a really good film, and it is beautifully photographed. The thing is, I don't think the 70s, I think it was 73, 74, I don't think that audience really understood what was going on, and even if they had done something else, I don't think they would have understood the whole concept of what was going on. Because, all right, my parents were born during the Great Depression. And they might sort of understand what was going on, but they weren't the target audience of this film for whatever reason. The thing is that during the Great Depression, there was men called hobos, men that were out of work that rode the rails across the country illegally, of course, because they had no money. And you always see the typical hobo picture of the shabbily dressed guy with the stick over his shoulder with the bag of his possessions on it. It was a whole, basically, subculture back then because that's how people survived. And, if they had stopped if someone had fed them or had done something for them at a residence, they would mark the residence with some kind of code so other hobos would see this and know they could probably get help there. And the other thing was that basically, they would scavenge for food. You get a can of this, a can of that, and whatever, and they'd all mix it together into something called mulligan stew because you never knew what was in it. So that brings us to the premise of this picture is that Lee Marvin is hobo A number one, whose goal is to ride Shaq, the sadistic conductor's train, to the end and become Emperor of the North Pole, which was a joke in Hoboland because basically becoming the Emperor of the North Pole was you were the Emperor of a wasteland, you were the Emperor of nothing, and that's what it was. That was the original title. They shortened it to Emperor of the North because they thought people might think it's a Christmas movie, which it wasn't. So basically, Lee Marvin is A number one, Ernest Borgnine is Shaq the conductor, and Keith Carradine is Cigarette, the new up-and-coming hobo. Other hobos are played by Elijah Cook Jr., Sid Haig, and Charles Tyner, and a bunch of other character actors you would run into. The climactic thing is that there's a fight between Shaq and A number one on a moving flat car, which supposedly took 35 days to film and is pretty brutal. The other thing is, too, that Lee Marvin and Ernest Borgnine came up together. They both worked for Robert Aldrich in The Dirty Dozen and other films. They were both in Bad Day at Black Rock as heavies. They all started as heavies. It was, Ernie, Lee, Charles Bronson, and a couple other guys. They all studied in New York and were all basically cast as heavies. And, Lee Marvin had a TV series, M Squad. Ernie had McHale's Navy. Charles Bronson had Man with the Camera. So they were all sort of intertwined because a lot of them were in the same movies together. But actually, The Emperor of the North is basically a character study with a really good fight at the end. And the other thing is, too, I am old enough to actually remember something about the hobo culture and things like that because my grandfather took me to a Yankees game in New York at Yankee Stadium. I don't know how old I was. I might have been 10, 12 or something like that. But the big thing when you went to New York in those days was you had to eat at the automat. That was a big treat. You put a quarter in, you get a sandwich. Well, we were sort of sharing a table with an older gentleman who was shabbily dressed. And, we were chatting, and then he looked at me and he asked me to go get him something. And that was because he wanted to talk to my grandfather about something. So when I came back, we were about to leave, and my grandfather put a handful of change on the counter and told the guy to help himself. Obviously, the guy was down and out, like a hobo or something like that, because we didn't have homeless people back then. We had hobos, and we had winos, and we had bums. Hobos were guys that were out of work, winos were alcoholics, and bums were guys that just didn't want to work and fell through the cracks. It is worth historically noting that Ronald Reagan single-handedly created the homeless problem in America back when he was president. I don't want to go into that, but... yeah, Emperor of the North is definitely worth a look. It may not resonate with what today's audience is because they really can't relate to the Great Depression and what happened there. But like I said, great character study with, some great actors. And have you ever seen a bad performance by either Lee Marvin or Ernest Borgnine? No, you haven't. So it's definitely worth checking out. I may bring back the Crazy Old Man for a while because there's a lot of weird fucking shit happening around here. And a lot of it's very fucked up. So until next time, stay safe. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. And we will catch you on the flip side.